Hello and welcome to the last episode of Doctrine of Discovery series of Raivision Reflections on page 5. And today I'm going to discuss the human trafficking by white Australians to Fiji for profit, and I'll concentrate on the Indian indentured or agreement system. As a reluctant and proxy colonizers of Fiji Island on behalf of the mainly white Australians who wanted to legally control Fiji, the British Parliament insisted that Fiji be run as a profitable enterprise on a business model. Arthur Gordon, who had replaced Hercules Robinson as the governor of Fiji in 1875, was provided one of sum of money to run Fiji. Thereafter, he was instructed to survive on income generated in Fiji alone. I have covered this in chapter 1 of my doctoral thesis. One of the main strategies used by Gordon was to build Fiji's economy around sugar industry. He invited the Australian-based Colonial Sugar Refining Company of Australia, known as CSR, Fiji in 1880, and a substantial Fijian land was provided to the company. Prior to that, small farms were in operation by mainly Australian white planters in Fiji. Soon after the arrival of the CSR in Fiji, they monopolized both the farming and sugar mills in Fiji. They had control of the farming and sugar mills until they finally left Fiji in 1973. The second strategy of Gordon to make Fiji self-sustaining economically was to ensure cheap and continuous labor to CSR and other planters in Fiji and for other development work. Both the Fijian and the island labor had not worked previously in Fiji, and it is doubtful whether Melbourne-based CSR would have invested so heavily in Fiji if cheap and continuous labor was not assured to them by Gordon. It's noteworthy here that Gordon did not let Fijians totally free in this strategy. He required them to do communal farming in their villages and imposed heavy taxes on them. They were instructed to hand over their produce to the white businessmen who, upon selling their produce, took taxes on behalf of the government as well as the profit before handing over the remaining profit to the respective chiefs for distribution in his community. Before arriving in Fiji, Gordon had served terms in Mauritius and Trinidad and Tobago, where he had observed how the Indian indenture or girmityas system had worked well for the colonialists there. Hence, he was determined to transport Indians to Fiji to provide cheap and continuous labor to the CSR and other white colonists in Fiji. Gordon decided in 1878 to import indentured laborers from Fiji to work on the sugarcane field and had taken the place of cotton plantation. That had taken the place of the cotton plantations. The 463 Indians arrived on 14th of May 1879, the first of some 61,000 that were to come before the scheme ended in 1916. The plan involved bringing the Indian workers to Fiji on a 5-year contract, after which they could return to India at their own expense. If they chose to renew their contract for a second 5-year term, they would be given the option of returning to India at the government's expense or remain in Fiji. The great majority chose to stay. The Queensland Act, which regulated indentured labor in Queensland, was made law in Fiji as well. Much as has been written about the indenture system, unfortunately, most of these works regurgitate the colonial version of Fiji girmity. However, I have provided an alternative decolonized version of girmity history in my doctoral thesis and the doctoral film, as well as My book, Reflections Twice Vanished, Reinterpreting Fiji and Global Girmit History and Contemporary Girmit Issues. Australia, businesses profiting from colonization of Fiji and post-colonial profiteering. The issue which has not been researched and discussed in detail is how the white Australian colonists have profited from colonial and post-colonial Fiji and how much of their profits they have transferred and are continuing to transfer to Australia as well as to New Zealand and the USA. First, the Colonial Sugar Refining Company, CSR, of Australia. Economists are apt to research and calculate how much of the loot of Fiji was transferred to Australia by the CSR in their 93-year-old monopoly of Fiji. Drawing on nearly 2 centuries of detailed data on tax and trade, a new research by the renowned economist Usa Patnaik calculated that Britain drained a total of nearly $45 trillion from India during the period 1765 to 1938. Similar research needs to be done by scholars in relation to the loot by the CSR in Fiji. It is noteworthy that every year the CSR had declared a certain percentage of sugar being grown and delivered to their mills by girmityas, and their descendants were declared as molasses. Their farmers were not paid anything for the molasses. However, all molasses was transferred to Australia, and the profit generated through it was kept by CSR in Australia. This surely is an example of grain theft by the CSR. Businesses such as Burnsfield and Maurice Hastrom, large and small businesses like Burnsfield and Maurice Hastrom had operated in Fiji for a long time. The profit generated was transferred to Australia. This too needs to be calculated. Australian hotel industry. Australian hotels have been in operation in Fiji for a long time. Wealth generated in Fiji has been transferred to Australia. Colonial and post-colonial administrators in Fiji. Thousands of Australians have been employed in the senior and lucrative position in Fiji for more than a century. It is not hard to imagine that some of or a large part of the salaries had made their way to Australia. This drainage of wealth of Fiji needs to be added to the loot of Fiji. Conclusion. This article is the beginning of my work titled Doctrine of Discovery, European Invasion, Genocide, Colonization, Human Trafficking and Profiteering. When completed, I hope to publish it as a book. I have written this article especially for Girmit Conference in 2022, Sydney. As such, this is still work in progress. I believe in learning from history, that history informs us where and how we have reached certain episodes in the long history of so-called humanity, which has been filled with inhuman acts. Looking at any episode in history alone does not do any justice to that episode. Looking at the genesis and root taken to that episode is revealing. This is what I have attempted to do in this article. This information about formation of a Federal Council of Australia in 1872 is revealing. As a result, a Federal Council of Australasia was formed to represent the affairs of the colonies in their relation with the South Pacific Islands. New South Wales and New Zealand did not join. The self-governing colonies of Queensland, Tasmania, and Victoria, as well as the Crown colonies of Western Australia and Fiji, became involved. South Australia was briefly a member between 1898 and 1890. The Federal Council had powers to legislate directly upon certain matters, such as in relation to extradition, regulations of fisheries, and so on. But it did not have a permanent secretarial executive powers or any revenue of its own. Furthermore, the absence of the powerful colony of New South Wales weakened its representative value. The question is why Fiji was involved in the formation of Federal Council of Australasia if it was not a colony of Australia. It is another thing that Fiji eventually did not become a part of the Australian Federation formed in 1901. Finally, it is my wish that Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, and Australian government initiate a commission inquiry into the colonization, exploitation, and loot of Fiji by the white Australians. In parallel to this would be the Truth and Reconciliation Committee to determine reparation to the Fijians, the descendants of victims of Black Betty, and to the girmityas and their descendants. This is the end of a 7-part series on Doctrine of Discovery. As I said, this is just a beginning. I'm now writing a book on these issues, or rather these issues, and much more will be revealed about how the Australians have colonized Fiji, how the two pre-1874 constitutions of Fiji were written by the Australians and New Zealanders, and how the whole of Fiji was brought under the Kambau, and lot of politics was involved. So wait for it. I'll be commenting more about this and other issues. Thanks for watching. If you like my presentation, please share with the others. And if you feel that you want to get more similar factual based historical analysis that impacts our life today, and which is going to impact our lives in future and lives of our descendants way beyond today, then please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye from me, Satish.